That's every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us here on this truly a magnificent Monday for our monthly Mental Health Matters. Dr. Alexandra Borden and Ms. Dallas Raleigh joins us. And it's going to be another good show because you're going to be participating and contributing. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email Talk Today at candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. We invite you to be part of a discussion for our monthly Mental Health Matters. Dr. Alexandra Borden and Ms. Dallas Raleigh. Thank you both very much for coming on board. And it is almost the height of summer in a sense, I think.
It's been hot for a while. But yeah, and actually that's why we put this show at this time. And of course, and all the students know this is towards the end of summer. As we're getting ready, especially at UCCI for the fall semester, we have so many students now that come to me, and I know that you guys have over at Infinite Mind Care as well, wanting to know more about how to get into mental health, how to be a therapist, how to be a counselor, what's the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. And so that's why we chose this panel for today.
Well, I appreciate it because I think if we give our students, especially during the summer, an opportunity to get some work experience, but to get, well, what if I wanted to study this particular career? They may be in university the first year, second year, maybe getting ready to consider going into something different. Well, here's an option. Or if you're in high school and you're going to be taking your options, that's what they call them when I was there.
Yep,
the subjects you're going to, right? Then your work experience. Good way to set the tone for the next academic year. Is that us?
Exactly, yes. Thank you, first of all, just for having me again. I just love being on the show every time.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Could I respectfully ask each of you, right, the field that you're in now, did you always know you wanted to be that? I mean, like some people just know. Like I have a friend, I think his mother would probably share from the womb, he knew he wanted to be a physician. Okay. I think he came out with a scalpel, but I'm not sure. But he always knew that's what he wanted. And, great physician today. Yeah. Some people not sure what they want and they get introduced to something, they stumbled upon it and they're just glad that they did. Early on in life, sometimes a career change. But what about you guys? Always knew this is where you wanted to be?
I don't mind.
Oh, ladies. Oh,
well, I'll tell you, I didn't. I knew I always wanted to help people, but honestly, I wanted to work with the police. So my work experiences and my internships over summers were working with the police. I think we've probably talked on here. Even I've always had very strong feelings of wanting to make the world safer, make the world better. I watched Silence of the Lambs when I was about 14 and decided I'd be a profiler. Yeah. And then got into Criminal Minds, which I still absolutely love. Yeah. And so I did so criminology is actually in sociology. So when I entered college, because I didn't have the opportunity to do psychology at high school, I was between psychology and sociology. Finished my associates, went into psychology when I got to Virginia. And then after that, I actually did a master's in general psychology because I wasn't sure which part I wanted to go into. And that's why I think this is such a great discussion, because there's so many areas in psychology alone without looking at the other related professions. So at that point, I wanted to do either social psychology, because moving to the States was a very interesting transitional experience for me, learning about different cultures. So I was interested in social psychology as well as forensic psychology, and keeping in I don't know if it's Anthony Hopkins or Hannibal Lecter that I'm in love with, but
Sir Anthony Hopkins
kept my options open. Absolutely. But when I started there, I also took a class on traumatic stress reactions, which was really interesting. It was the 5th anniversary of 9/11. And I was fortunate to work with a teacher there who was phenomenal. And so, going through Ivan was actually the pivotal experience for me. So I actually moved off island 2 weeks before Ivan hit. My parents made me go to university.
Yeah, some parents, I don't know what they're thinking. Why would you spend that kind of money?
Right? I know. I was happy to stay here.
Yeah,
but they made me move off island. But it was really interesting because although my heart was here and I wished I could be here, seeing what happened to the island going through that kind of disaster was really interesting. And I wanted to, seeing, I've even written papers, actually we talked about one of them before, but looking at the uprise in crime and substance abuse amongst my friends, amongst the island as a whole, and how the island then went through this difficult time, but then also recovered. I think became much more resilient and much closer, more cohesive because of a lot of the experiences there. And so that was when I shifted into more of a clinical focus. Going into my master's, I said, being a therapist who wants to listen to someone's problems all day, right? I was going to save the world or understand racism and the occult and everything. And so I was going to change the world some other way. But that was when I really shifted to more of a clinical perspective. I did some internships here with the counseling center and at the hospital, which is what made me decided that I wanted to do therapy. And my time at the hospital, actually with Dr. Lockhart, was when I decided I wanted to do clinical psychology. As we get into it, we'll learn that clinical psychology tends to deal with more severe pathology, psychotic disorders, bipolar disorders, all those kinds of things. And we also do psychological testing. And so wanting to be able, it's my personality, I want to be able to do all of it.
Yeah.
So
and
that
was what I ended up pursuing.
Right. Ms. Dallas, what about you?
Very interesting. I just have to say, I didn't even know that all about you. That's so interesting just to hear the path that you can take to get here, actually. And I think that's fascinating for us all to hear, honestly.
And this is the thing. I hope Dr. Borden doesn't mind me. I've said this to her privately. Not just her intellect, but the passion, the enthusiasm, the genuineness, the sincerity that she has for this country and its people.
Absolutely.
And something that I recognize increasingly, with the greatest respect to all and sundry, any nationality, any other culture, but amongst the Caymanians, those simple little people who went to school here for the most part and understands the culture and its little idiosyncrasies. There's so many people like Dr. Borden who are incredibly smart, yet humble and down to earth, and they want to contribute. With a population of 500 people, it's not that many people here, relatively speaking. My friend just come back from a football match and he thought, wow, I could put everybody in Cayman here and there'll still be space. Right? So there's only a few people here, relatively speaking, and yet we have such a dynamic intellectual group of people. So, Dr. Borden, you're amazing. You're amazing.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Right. But Ms. Dallas, you astronaut traveler, right?
No, not at all. But it's interesting again, like to hear everyone's story as even a mental health professional, how it's all different. I also did not know that this is what I wanted to do. It's really funny because I started off in college. I was a journalism major, I think. And I say I think because we had a running joke for a while. My parents also, my dad called me a professional student. He was, because I would change my major pretty often in my freshman and sophomore year. It wasn't until somewhere, I think maybe later in my sophomore year, I really finalized. I was like, I'm doing psychology. That's it. I'm locking in. I just had so many different passions, and it was really difficult for me to figure out which one I wanted to focus on. That was overwhelming just for me personally. There were so many different things that I really just loved. I was interested in aviation. I was looking into going to aeronautical. Aeronautical engineering was one thing I was looking into, and journalism, again, communications. So, but through it all, like what helped me guide my career here was through like volunteer work, honestly, and then just really figuring out what fit the most and really what I got excited about doing. And that was when I was working with kids and with teenagers. That was really where I felt alive. I really enjoyed that type of work. I wasn't as passionate and excited as about the other stuff. And so, and it felt just natural, honestly, working with people and, of course, wanting to help people, really getting interested in, families and really what makes change and makes a difference. And so it was in college when I was just a psych major for undergrad, my bachelor's degree, and I was involved with a program that it focused on adolescents and who had a minor charge. Okay, so it was around ages like 13 to 17, and they may have had a charge of like truancy or minor theft at that point, or a few different things, right? They hadn't gotten into more serious crimes just yet, so it was a program designed to help divert them from more serious crime, essentially. And they paired us up to work with them, and I really enjoyed this experience. And it basically was me working with one teenager for about 8 hours every week. So it was a really intensive process. However, something that came to light to me during this process, which led me to what I'm doing now, is that I realized that I would pick this girl up, we'd spend time together, we'd do all different activities, and then I would drop her right back off into her environment, into her home, and nothing was changing at home. So it was sad to me, because I realized at that point, maybe some things can change with this girl, but there's so much going on that she's not in control of. Her parents, there were drugs all around, and just there was no focus on her education. There was nothing that was going to be shifting in her environment, and that highlighted to me just the importance of the system. And it just dawned on me, like, oh my God, we need to be doing more, basically. Then that's when I discovered what is called, my field is marriage and family therapy, and we're systemic therapists, and that's the lens, I guess, as you would say. So that's really what led me there, and then that's where I went to grad school to pursue my master's in marriage and family therapy.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that as parents specifically who are listening, and even if your child isn't in high school, I mean, this is just my thought, because I believe that there are many young people, especially now more than ever, who are introduced, I don't want to use the word exposed, right? Who are introduced to things sometimes deliberately, I don't want to consciously. And if you get to guide and nurture their interest, they may become, talk show hosts, they may become politicians, lawyers, teachers, engineers, educators. But if we give them an opportunity to say, hey, there are these things, and with these degrees, you can do the things. I'm not going to speak from the American perspective, because I understand it's a bit different, but take the lawyer in the English perspective. LLB, that's your first degree. You go, you get your law degree. Doesn't make you a lawyer. You don't have to practice law. Or if you go through the process and become a qualified lawyer, you don't have to be before the courts. You don't have to be practicing law. You just have a law degree that assists you. And I think we need to, as parents, again, we need to be in a position that we are aware of all the different potential career options and allow our children to explore. If I could ask you, I'm finding that maybe this era, but I think it's the children who are curious, perhaps more inclined to explore other options. That, like you, Mr. Alice, you have an interest in this, you have the aptitude and the ability, and you think, well, I could do this and be very successful. I have the intellectual ability, I have the tenacity and the drive and all those things, but I could also do this, I could also do this. Sometimes as parents, we kind of, focus, make up your mind. I mean, what's wrong with you? You're all over the place. We need to give them a chance to find their way and to get that degree. I think a psychology degree gives us that grounding.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I've really been hoping to, kind of the message I've been trying to get out. I think especially in Cayman, so you talked about England with the law degree. I think in Cayman it's always been accounting, right? Accounting and hospitality. And I think, letting people know that there are other options. You can have a successful career outside of the financial industry. Yes, the financial industry is key in Cayman, I agree. But that there are these other options out there, and a lot that you're able to do from Island now as well. So,
well, I'm hoping that as parents listening, that part of the show is to be able to involve and educate. And I say, even if you have to laugh at my expense, if it entertains you, hey, take the load off, that's fine. But we need to become, if we're going to truly talk about nation building, become a society that I think, again, values education the way our parents, I say our parents, people who are my age, you guys are probably your grandparents, right? Where our parents valued education, not just a piece of paper, but that too. And give our children a chance to see that, through a little bit of, sacrifice, a little bit of service, and a whole lot of struggle sometimes, you can have success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With perhaps careers in mental health in particular. I mean, we hear different terms, psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, therapists, I don't know.
It goes on and on.
A lot of work.
Every list I looked up added additional ones to my list.
I had to shorten mine.
When we come back, could I ask you to help to guide us so that we get an understanding? Now, I think back, I used to call it, Department of Social Services. I know it's changed, it's not, but even there's social workers. And then in school,
Absolutely.
there are career counselors or counselors. There are all these different things, careers and jobs that people do. Are there any similarities? Can we explore some of the differences? How do we go about it and see where it's at? That'd be fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're not tuned in, why not? Call a friend. Be a part of our discussion, please. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. There's that YouTube thing that you can do as well. If you go on, just look at our guests. Don't look at the host. You can listen to the host, but look at the guests. And then you go to YouTube and you got to find us. Radio Cayman streaming live. I think it is Majigga Bob somewhere there. You find us there. You all know how that works. If you're not sure, ask your children because they do. and look for Radio Cayman streaming live. And what you do? Follow us, Mr. Lynn? I do. Yeah, see, back in the day, if you follow somebody, you kind of got called with police call on you, but that was apparently different. You can follow people.
Now it's acceptable. Yeah.
It's okay. Follow them online. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Did you hear that Vant Motors has your sale going on now? And you get your choice on the money you'll save on your new car or truck?
My sale? My choice? Really?
Yeah! And they have lots of cars on sale. Some up to $7,000 off.
Sounds pretty good.
It gets even better. You can choose to take the full discount or you can get some or all of it as cash back.
Extra cash back would be great.
Exactly. And you can even use the savings to extend your warranty or service plan so you'll drive worry-free for years longer.
Another good idea.
If you want to upgrade with something like a new roof rack or backup camera, you can choose that too.
Wow, I get to choose?
Yeah, that's why it's your sale, your choice. Going on now at Vant Motors on Walkers Road, while stocks last.
Nursing, education, social work, media studies, hospitality, electrical, plumbing, AC. Wow, I didn't even know that the University College of the Cayman Islands offered all that.
Yes, all that and more, as well as event management and QuickBooks. They also did customized training for our staff last month. Hey, didn't your son just graduate from high school? Take him so he can apply for the fall semester.
Pursue your academic and professional goals at UCCI. Admissions are ongoing. Classes start August 27th. Visit them or call 623-8224 to learn more.
Congratulations, it's a boy.
During the greatest events of your life, whether or not you have the right health insurance coverage should be the last thing on your mind. That's why at Fidelity Health, we are committed to helping you get matched with the right plan to suit you and your family. We offer a range of plans to suit your budget, plus access to a network of quality care throughout the Caribbean and the USA. You can relax and enjoy life's greatest moments when you are covered with Fidelity Health. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote.
Hi, this is Derry Dakers-Lee, chairperson for the Miss Cayman Islands Universe Committee. The committee is inviting you to our pageant on 11th August at the Westin. Dress code is formal. Join us for cocktails at 6 p.m. The pageant will start at 7 p.m. Tickets for adults and children can be purchased for $75 at Sand Angels and Funky Tanks. Come out and show your support for the 7 young ladies vying for the title of Miss Cayman Islands Universe. The winner will proudly represent us at the Miss Universe pageant in December. See you at the Westin on August 11th.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. This is our monthly Mental Health Matters as we invite you to be a part of our discussion in the studio. Good company of Dr. Alexandra Warden and Ms. Dallas Raleigh joins us as we talk about careers in mental health. And there are a lot of different careers.
Absolutely.
Maybe someone who know, let's say, for example, we talked about, a lawyer, but even as a teacher, are you a primary school teacher? Are you teaching a specific subject? Yeah, you're a teacher, an educator, but you can specialize in a particular area. Law, even accounting and finance. Well, mental health, as a psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist, well, all sorts of things, right?
Then good with practicing the list.
Yeah. Oh my, it's almost exhausting. I haven't even exhausted the list yet, but it's exhausting.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with you guys.
All right. So there's, so I think probably we'll try and do it as like a bit of a comparison. We'll go through the main ones, then maybe we'll mention some of the other ones that are a bit more specialized. But I would say between them, the biggest differences are going to be the level of education required. And the main focus and activity. So Dallas actually touched on one of the differences with marriage-friendly therapy. But with the focus, I mean, the kinds of places that we work, the kinds of populations that we work with, and how we work with them. So I'd say, especially in Cayman, counseling and therapy is used quite loosely. In the States as well, but I find even more so in Cayman. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important to realize that a counselor, so they get licensed generally as mental health counselors. Unfortunately, we had one coming that wasn't able to join us today, but there are a lot in the community. I'm always happy to guide people towards resources as well. Mental health counselors will generally have a master's degree, and then they will get licensed at that level. Some will go on to get their doctorate, but most will have their master's, and they tend to focus more on transitional times in your life and dealing with difficult situations. So they tend to deal more with things like going through like divorces, difficult times at work, and they tend to do a lot of the therapy. Most therapists, I think, in the community, from the statistics I've been looking up, are actually going to be master's level, and a lot of them will be mental health counselors. So.
Now, I sort of want to get into licensing, especially we're in Cayman. What it requires. Yes, you get a degree. How do you actually be able to, hang up your shingle and say, hey, I'm open for business. Mm-hmm. But also at some point maybe ask if you were in this field, mm-hmm. is there a particular area of sort of specialization that might be much scope? I'm thinking, the profiler, for instance, the criminal profiler, or others,
Profilers are actually policemen. They don't tend to be psychologists.
Okay, so
there are forensic psychologists, though,
yeah.
who will assist with things, but criminal minds actually, that part of the FBI, which is where I want to work with, is actually very senior police officers.
So, but they're not psychologists, psychiatrists. They
don't tend to be.
They don't tend to see that. I mean, I don't watch those shows, but I always got the impression. Yeah. There was one, what was it, way back when I should have called Profiler, I think.
Well, and counselors will work. There's one called Profiler too. Criminal Minds is amazing. And actually, their psychology tends to be on point. At one point, one of them was a bit off. He was talking about dissociative identity disorder, which is a very specialized, very difficult to understand disorder, and he used some incorrect terms, which was Dr. Reed. But for the most part, they're on point. Okay. And mental health counselors, though, will work so Dallas and I are both in private practice, but they'll work like the counseling center. They will work with employee assistance programs. They sometimes will even work in the prisons as well. So you can get, that would be more of a forensic lean to it. Mm-hmm. And there, a lot of times they'll be working with doing therapy with persons there at the counseling center. They do a lot of work with the drug court. So there can be interactions with the courts as well. As a clinician, you have to decide if that's within your scope of competency, and if that's something of interest, because obviously once you get into the court system, there's bigger implications. With the licensing, though, I got a lot of questions about, next on my list is marriage-family therapist, which Dallas will be able to share more about.
Yeah. I just wanted to say first off, because there are so many different designations and licensures and specialties that we can go into here, right? And it was funny because Dr. Bott and I were we were comparing our list right before the show and realizing that we each had different things as well. And, I say that just because there are so many. So if there are students listening especially, or people who are looking into this field, don't worry if you're overwhelmed is kind of what I wanted to say, because I was there too. I don't know if you were as well, but it's very confusing, I think, at the outset, trying to actually figure out the difference. So you're not alone. Even if I'm reaching that one person who's feeling like, I don't even know where to begin with all these different careers. It's just about starting to talk to these different professionals. Mm-hmm. That to me is what helped me figure out the difference between all of these as we're going into each of them. But yeah, and also, we're just talking about shows, for example, right? Mm-hmm. I think that it can be really confusing as well. Whenever I see a therapist on a movie or a TV show, I start to cringe because I'm so scared about how we're going to be portrayed. I'm like, oh no, not another one. They're usually really unethical when something happens. And so that can also cause a lot of misinformation and confusion when you're thinking about going into the mental health field, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's really important that we're having this discussion and outlining the different ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It could be Dr. Fraser Crane. I'm listening.
Yes. So I know that I had mentioned a little bit like in the intro about what I do specifically, and at least what got me into it. A marriage and family therapist, why we are unique as a subset in the mental health field is, again, because of the systemic lens. And I'll kind of say, as I think that even the term, I'm just going to say for marriage and family therapists, I think our label is also misleading, because I get the question a lot, oh, you only work with couples and families then. And that's not true. I can't tell you how many individual clients I have and how many just kids I have, teenagers, adults. I work with a little bit of everything. The focus that we have, though, in our training is in your system, in your context, and it is in relationships. The systemic lens is what I've said, that we should be called systemic therapists versus just marriage and family therapists, right? Because it's the system that I'm looking at. You're not, no person is in isolation. We don't exist in a vacuum. So when you're coming in with whatever problems it is, I'm interested to know about your family, your work life, your home, your background, your sleep, diet, nutrition. I need to know a little bit of everything to be able to fully understand what's going on. And that, to me, is the biggest benefit of having someone with a systemic lens. Not just marriage and family therapists have that, obviously, but we do have the specialized training that then also allows us to work with couples and families. And so as part of my master's degree in our training, we have to get half of our clinical hours in either groups, families, or couples. So it has to be relational. Actually, not groups. It's just the families and couples that have to be the relational context. And so, again, we have that training to be able to work with the different dynamics, because it's very different than having one person in the room versus having a couple or a family with 3 children and trying to work with that whole system at the same time.
As I listen to you, I recognize that perhaps in a smaller community, sometimes the challenges might be more, but then the opportunities exist as well if people will embrace what is available to them. For the student who is considering, at what point would be a good time to explore, I think I would like to go down this path. Now, I'm not sure that I want to be this particular type of, psychologist, therapist, or what have you, but would it be high school? Would it be the, early years of university?
I would just say that the earlier the better, but without trying to put on pressure at the same time, because it works out. And so it's not, I don't think that people have to have it figured out, obviously, when they go into their freshman year. I clearly didn't. I changed a lot.
I was in my first master's.
Yeah.
It's all good.
So it's not, we figured out along the way. So I want to take the pressure off a lot of students who have this need, and sometimes that does come from parents' good intentions too, but really you must figure it out. Like you were kind of saying before, you've got to kind of take classes sometimes and go through different internship experiences and realize, wow, this isn't what I like, or this is what I really love. But then once you do start to figure that out, I would say the earlier the better. It wouldn't be just till waiting. I think some students wait till their senior year to try and figure out what they're doing next, like grad school wise. If they have an idea beforehand, it's a really good idea to start talking to professionals. I'd be very happy to talk to high school students about what we do, if that would help someone make that choice.
And there's a lot of internships available on island as well. So I work at the university. I work with 3rd and 4th year students. I teach psychology classes there. But I've got high school students reaching out to me, and lower level college classes students as well. And there's, being able to get experience in the field will let you decide if it's what you want or not. And I've had both of those experiences. I had internships where I absolutely loved, and I've had some that I know I'll never work in that part of the field, and both are very important. But I've got a list on my website of ones that I know of, and we'll talk about as we get into the ABA therapy. There's a lot of opportunities for students to get into that on island as well. But even looking at professionals, and if it sounds like you would like to do what they're doing, I'd say talk to them, find out what their day-to-day activities are like, and how much education do they have? How hard was it to get licensed? How much money do they make? Not everyone may tell you that. You can look that part up online, but that may be a big factor for people as well. So
I think too, as we look at not just globally, but just right here within our own country, large organizations are probably employing different types of professions. Yes, depending on organization, they may need the lawyers and the accountants and the finance people, and these are the people to do the things. But as the organization itself grows, it may need people. They may lump it under the HR, used to be called the OB section way back when, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. So there's also like related professions, right, that are mental health-ish. Human resources definitely falls in line with psychology. There's even a field called industrial organizational psychology that actually specializes in that and does great work in the States as well. So that would be a related one. I know within our bachelor's degree at UCCI, we actually offer a human resources specialization, or concentration. So that's a related one, and they've kind of become the first step to connecting clients with either an EAP program or a counselor outside generally.
All right. We've got a break, and I think it says 42 seconds a minute. No, just kidding. The break coming up short. When we come back, can we talk about some of the education? Can you come through? I believe that parents mean well. I believe teachers want to guide their students, and they look at the student and say, oh, you're really good at this particular subject or subjects. But sometimes, not knowing fully of different opportunities, or because you think, well, let's say psychology, therefore, you must be in this area. Help us to dispel some of the myths, maybe guided to be able to at least explore some of the opportunities and truly understand what is required, both from the educational perspective, but once you qualify, what it's going to be like. All right. 949-8037, or you can WhatsApp 925-32621. We're going to be talking about careers in mental health, giving you a rundown. Dr. Alexandra Borden and Ms. Dallas Raleigh are our guests. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Nursing, education, social work, media studies, hospitality, electrical, plumbing, AC. Wow, I didn't even know that the University College of the Cayman Islands offered all that.
Yes, all that and more, as well as event management and QuickBooks. They also did customized training for our staff last month. Hey, didn't your son just graduate from high school? Take him so he can apply for the fall semester.
Pursue your academic and professional goals at UCCI. Admissions are ongoing. Classes start August 27th. Visit them or call 623-8224 to learn more.
Sometimes things just don't go as planned. That's why you need Contractors All Risk Insurance from Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Ensure you're covered in the event of property damage and third-party injury or damage claims during your construction projects. And with Fidelity Insurance Brokers, you can be sure you are getting competitive pricing and superior customer service. Call us today for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Hey, are those new glasses on Will?
Yeah, we went to Optical Outlook. Wham, bam, easy exam. Finally, an exam he could pass. And we had the glasses the next day. Easiest part of our back-to-school shopping for sure.
Book your child's exam today at Optical Outlook. Call 746-2020. Save 50% off a complete pair of glasses with any student eye exam. From now until August 31st. Come, see the difference with Optical Outlook. Located in the Caymanian Village. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Tune in to Radio Cayman every morning at 7:20 a.m. for your daily weather update. Proudly brought to you by Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. With over 47 years of experience, they'll get the job done for you on time. Free estimate. Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. Call them at 949-4709 for a free estimate.
As parents and a community, it is our desire to have happy children who are able to cope with all of life's challenges. However, despite our loving support, sometimes our children suffer in silence and put on a brave face. Do you suspect that your child is experiencing problems, secretly struggling to cope, and is overwhelmed? If there is a possibility that they are anxious, experiencing troubling thoughts, and are suffering in silence, it is important to seek professional help. The Ministry of Community Affairs, in partnership with the Alex Panton Foundation, is hosting 5 community presentations on self-harm prevention this month and in September. These free talks cover how to spot the warning signs and who to turn to for expert advice. A question and answer will follow each talk. To get more information on the dates and venues of these presentations, please call 244-2426 or visit the Cayman Islands government website today.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us for our monthly Mental Health Matters. In the studio, Dr. Alexandra Borden and Ms. Dallas Raleigh. So we talk about careers in mental health. And, I've always, if anybody says, "Oh, you talk about education," well, I do. I think it's important.
There's a reason.
You know, it's
very important.
One day when I grow up, I'm gonna know what I want to be, and I'm gonna keep studying. And one day you can say, "Well, you're not that dumb. You know, you're kind of smart."
Mm-hmm.
You learn in different ways. We start to recognize that people approach things, and I look at my mother specifically. She may not have understood multiple intelligences, but she sure applied, that whole concept to watching how each child respond to certain things. Differentiated learning may not have been a term that was in her vocabulary, but obviously she understands it. And so if she can motivate us so that we can excel, then those of us who have been exposed to formal education, right, we need to employ that strategy to make sure our society, and I feel like psychology, the idea that people do what they do. I see economics and psychology having so many similarities. The normative side of economics in particular.
I also studied politics, so politics and psychology go hand in hand too.
Absolutely. I'll just say that's why I loved the field of psychology right away, because I knew that no matter what I wanted to do, I didn't have that part figured out yet, but I knew that it was going to apply. And that's what I used to teach, like intro psych back in grad school, and I loved it. And I would say to my students kind of that first day, no matter why you're here, a lot of them were there if they had to be
social science requirements.
Yeah, social science, exactly. Like their business majors are like, this is so pointless. I told everyone, I promise you will find something that applies to you and that you will find it interesting here, because this is just about people.
That's it.
And we're all people. We all have relationships. We all have families, and we all have complications. And that's what psychology is about. And that's why it's so fascinating. So no matter what, it's going to apply in some way.
And there's so much overlap. I mean, neuroeconomics, for instance, we're seeing so much overlap with the different fields. And I think that's one of the things that appeals, to someone like me, where you look at psychology and perhaps part of the confusion that we may have as teachers, as parents. Well, you sure you want to do this? If you're qualified as this is what you have to do. Well, you guys are showing us no, or if it is, there's so much more.
There's so many people, even my friends that have doctorates in clinical psychology, they do such different things. It really is a degree that you can do pretty much anything with. There's a reason why it's, the most popular degree behind business in the States, because it is so versatile.
It is one. Well, I'm hopeful, that as parents that are listening can have those discussions. And I think summers are the greatest time to recharge, to become re-energized. And then when you go back to school, whether it's your first year at university, whether it's going to be your final year, you're thinking, wow, this is what I can be. This is what is available to me. So we talked about a few things. Yep. Share with us some more, Dr. Warden.
All right. So we just talked about mental health counselors and marriage family therapists, both licensed master's level. Some may have doctorates as well, but they generally will be master's level. Next, I wanted to touch on social workers. I know we've been on to talk about the UCCI social work program. UE, I believe, also has a program on island. And there's a lot of programs available everywhere in the States. Social workers tend to do more of case management. They tend to be better versed in things like connecting people to resources. So, like, for example, when I was working with my therapy clients in the States, they would work with me on kind of the emotional and behavioral things that are going on, but then they'd work with the social worker to help them get housing, to help them get a job. We have a lot of social workers in DCFS. They're the ones who will investigate child abuse situations. We have them in probation and parole, Department of Community Rehabilitation now. So they're in there. And some of them actually do have degrees in actually counseling, which can be really helpful in understanding the clients and the people that they're working with. And being able to develop the programs there as well. So social workers can license actually bachelor's level. They will also move into the therapy realm if they get a master. So an MSW is, I think, probably the most common degree for social workers.
Masters in social work. Okay.
Yep. And they'll get licensed. So social workers will generally do more of case management and more of the connecting people with resources. Once they become a clinical social worker, then they may also do therapy. So like Mr. Terry Delaney, who comes on sometimes, he's in social work and does actually a lot of work with the program on island too.
Okay.
So that's a social worker.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to add in real quick that I think as well, I'm not going to speak to their qualifications and everything, but I know that the Family Resource Center, obviously, as well, they have tons of wonderful facilitators who also have a lot of background in social work, I believe.
Yeah.
That's a few of them I know for
and
sure.
Human Services, too.
Human Services, yes, exactly. So that's where another place, I know that, as mental health professionals, we collaborate together to try and get our clients to access those resources that they need. So it's very common for a client to be accessing therapy with one person and then, social work services from someone else, also maybe involved with DCFS and with probation. So having
maybe
sort
a
of
psychiatrist.
And a psychiatrist, right? So exactly, like I look at it as, again, a team approach to get you the best help and services that you will need to thrive.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about the treatment team, and I think that's where we have different focuses, and we often will work together.
As you're talking about that sort of team approach, some of us may be a little bit more familiar, a little bit more willing to maybe talk to a pastor, that pastoral counseling. We're seeing more and more of those pastors going in to getting formal training as psychologists and counselors and the like, so that they bring with them, I wouldn't want to say the academic, but the clinical side of things, so that you're not just talking to someone who is a good listener, who's genuinely trying to guide you, but the person who has the credentials to say, okay, you know what, here's an issue, and in fact, your issue requires you to speak to someone at this level who can do more for you. So maybe that's what we need in our society.
Yeah. And I think that, so they do have a certification process. I'm not as familiar with it, but they will definitely bring more of a religious perspective, which some people are more comfortable with. But sometimes, like you said, someone will be working with me on more of a mental health or mental illness concern, but then also be working with the pastoral counselor. And so generally, like when we work with other professionals, what we'll do is we won't just call them. We'll get a release of information from you, so a piece of paper that says that you're okay with us talking to them, and we'll discuss what we'll be talking about. Sometimes it's like, yeah, just go ahead. You're both on my team. You're both on my side. Talk about whatever you need to. Other times they'll just be kind of coordinating different services or just letting them know what we're focusing on.
With that, whether it's, let's take two ends of the spectrum. The child. And in the child, it could be, the one who's pre-adolescent as well as the adolescent child. And then the elderly, those who are maybe 60, 70, 80, 90. I would imagine the therapy or the services to those individuals can be quite different.
A lot of times they are. A lot of times we'll find people who specialize more with children. So in psychology, we call them child psychologists. You also
not psychologists with children. Sorry. It's not fun.
But the geriatric population, so obviously with child and adolescent therapists, we tend to have, you have to consider the developmental approach, and I'll let Dallas talk to this more in a minute. The geriatric one I think is really interesting.
Yes.
Because with them, my training in psychopharmacology actually highlighted just how much can go on biologically with the geriatric population, so understanding their developmental concerns and things that might be going on, especially once medications get involved, just how much can happen. But a lot of times those will be, you get psychologists who do specialize. Actually, one of my friends does that with working either with like a population above a certain age or even dealing with end-of-life issues.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know that we were talking a bit about education so far. We haven't gotten into all the steps, to get where we are, or into this field. But when you get into the area of like specialties, that's when that additional training comes in. So that's usually after you get your master's degree, for example, or your doctorate, then is when often you can specialize in additional fields like that. I have a friend who I went to school with, and so she's also a marriage and family therapist, but she specializes in working with the elderly population and caregivers then of their caregivers. Awesome. And so it's amazing that, again, like that's a very systemic focus, but she's found a niche for herself as well in that way, which is just fascinating to me. So again, there's just so many different specialties that you can work with if you know a certain population that you're really passionate about. You still have to kind of go through these other steps, and then you can hone in when you find that and through additional trainings and certifications.
No, one of the things that
Okay, we've got 2 more big ones to cover, if that's okay?
Yes, Mom. Yes.
Okay. So we've got clinical psychologists, which is what I am. And so in the States, we tend to be licensed doctoral level. And we tend to, as I said, we tend to work with, I think of the counseling professions, we tend to be the most medically minded. So I think we tend to be the closest to the psychiatrist, and that we take more of a pathological approach. I think clinical psychologists are seen as where we deal with ill people as opposed to well people. Psychology is trying to change that, because obviously everyone is human and everyone has, different things that go on. But rather than having the focus on wellness, we've tended to treat things. We tend to work in hospitals. Because our training is a lot on diagnosis, right? So we spend a lot of time on focusing on identifying what's going on, which will then help us understand what's going on for the person and will then inform our treatments as well. We tend to rely a lot on research, as I think all of us do these days. And we are required to actually participate and complete research during our program as well. Actually, I think probably a lot of us are.
I was as well during my master's degree, and that's why I chose my master's degree. Often, this is like one where you kind of figure out. Most master's degrees are just like a 2-year program. I ended up choosing one that was 3 years because I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. It's a whole research component as well. Realizing that I should have just gone on and got my doctorate at that point, but it was still an amazing choice, and I'm glad I did that. But again, it already gave me a very different focus and lens, which I'm very thankful for. So
the doctorate will generally be 5 years beyond your bachelor's, and that will either be a PhD, which will have a heavier research component, which is the traditional degree. In the States, we now have a PsyD as well, which is a doctorate of psychology, which is what I have, which is more clinically focused. And so either of those then will allow you to be licensed as a psychologist, which will allow us to work. We're allowed to do psychological testing. We do a lot of therapy work. We work everywhere from private practice all the way through to the hospitals. We do teaching. We do research. Really, it is what you make of it. So.
And then one of the things through process, I want to continue this discussion so that people understand. I gather that, like many professions nowadays, the continuing education is necessary. It's an absolute component in order to remain current, remain licensed, to remain credential. All right. So we can talk about that and get into some of the areas. All right. Appreciate it very much. Before we go to the break.
One more. Psychiatrist versus psychologist. So I do talk therapy, although I have a degree that allows me to prescribe in some places, which muddies the water someplace a little bit. But a psychiatrist is actually a medical doctor. And they have their MD, and then they've actually specialized into working with psychotropic medications. So they specialize in diagnosis of mental illness and psychopharmacological treatment of it as well. So they're the ones that do medications. That's why some people will have a psychiatrist and a psychologist, or a psychiatrist and a counselor. And so they are another part of the team, but their training is a lot different than ours.
All right. Well, we'll come back. Share with us some more. We invite you to return after the news. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Headline. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
Family, friends, and community members show their support for the 7 young ladies vying for the 2018 Miss Cayman Islands Universe pageant. The annual Miss Cayman motorcade over the weekend gave us a taste of what's to come for Saturday's competition. Each contestant traveled in fine style by jeep, and the route took them all across Grand Cayman. The pageant takes place at the Westin Grand Cayman Beach Resort and Spa. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Some 10,000 people have been evacuated on the Indonesian island of Lombok after a powerful 6.9 magnitude quake on Sunday left nearly 100 people dead. Witnesses spoke of chaos and terror with thousands of buildings damaged and power and communication lines cut. Boats have been sent to evacuate more than 1,000 tourists from the nearby Gili Islands. Police in the U.S. city of Chicago have asked for more help to combat gun violence after more than 60 people were shot over the weekend. At least 10 people were killed in the city, and police say most of the shootings were gang-related. Most of the shootings happened on Sunday, with 30 people shot between midnight and 3 a.m. And police in the U.S. state of New Mexico have rescued 11 malnourished children who were being kept in squalid conditions in a remote desert compound. They said the children, aged 1 to 15, had no shoes, were wearing rags, and looked like third world refugees. 5 adults were found at the scene, including 2 heavily armed men. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. It is our monthly Mental Health Matters. This month's Careers in Mental Health. Dr. Alexandra Borden, Ms. Dallas Raleigh joins us. And, I'm thinking of that the student, high school student in particular. I say fourth form. I don't know what they call it these days, where you just finished your third form, your first year of high school sort of deal, and you're thinking, I got to take some options now. And as you said, Dr. Borden, psychology wasn't available in high school then. I don't know if it still is now. I know at sixth form level, it probably is. Right, yeah. But I make no apology. I think economics is the core subject, should be across the board. But as I was just thinking during the break, that is one of the subjects where you start to think about the human interaction, the way people do what they do, why they do it. Okay, so in relation to how they make choices about their time and their money. But psychology equally gives us a chance into the human psyche. Mm-hmm. Wow. I wonder what she's thinking. I wonder where... Is that the perception of the psychologist?
That's probably a perception a lot, which is, again, probably really misguided.
Yes.
That all we do is analyze people and that we can figure out what people are thinking. And
definitely
like
not
that.
Psychic.
Oh, not at all.
I'm a psychologist, not a psychic.
Yeah. And I did thank you for allowing me to share, because I deliberately, I think we don't have that perspective. Mm-hmm. Now, what about the other side? Maybe through television, for instance, the psychologist, the psychiatrist, the therapist, where we have this picture of you come in, you sit and you spill all your problems, and then you get up and you go, and depending on who you saw, you take a script or you say something, and then you
get homework.
Yeah.
CBT, I do homework.
Yeah. Is that the perception or misconception?
I think it depends on the show. I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so actually sometimes psychiatrists do counseling and therapy as well, because the show I'm thinking of is In Treatment, which had all kinds of unethical things happen. Very interesting show. But I think...
Sorry, not familiar.
I was actually taking a course on counseling theories at the time, so my teacher used it as a good example of what not to do.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think it depends on the person, depends on their approach, and depends on the clinician as a person as well, what kind of orientation you have. So even within psychology, like I do cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavior therapy, which is a newer version of CBT. It brings in some other modalities with it. One of my best friends from my program is actually psychodynamic. We always make jokes about Freud, but that's actually how she works.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, one of the ladies I worked with doing research was a psychoanalyst, which actually goes even beyond that. Yeah. It's another 7 years training beyond your doctorate. Still very popular in New York and California. And she had a couch, the couch you would see. She actually had a couch I've never seen that anywhere else, but
I have a couch too, but it's all covered up in that.
But traditional, like a
like the actual like the psychotherapy couch, and she'd sit behind with a notebook. I don't know what they wrote on that.
I say I have a couch, but it's just purely for comfort.
Yeah.
Clients, but clients often will lounge. Basically, I'll say like and stretch out and get comfortable as we're doing like deep breathing exercises, and that's what
I'll probably go to sleep.
Yeah. Once in a while it happens. Yeah. But yeah, and like she talked about working with families and couples. I do a lot of work with individuals and groups, and so we're actually talking over break about the different kinds of settings. I think for both of us, some of the most probably the most powerful kinds, and for me the most interesting was working in residential treatment programs. And so we've often talked about the levels of care. And so depending on which field you get into as well, we'll say which level of care you work at and how you work in that. Everything from outpatient, which is what we typically do, which is the hour a week in the office, to IOP, which you've often talked about. They offer a substance abuse program at Counseling Center, and Infinite Mind Care actually is an individual IOP program, which maybe you could talk about after. Right up to where people actually live in the facility. I've worked in substance abuse residential programs, which I absolutely loved.
That's what I did as well. So you were talking about during the break.
Yeah. So I specialize with substance abuse and trauma, so complex trauma to be specific. And with that, you take on different clinical rotations, and you take different classes to prepare for it, and then different rotations to get supervised in that. But I think that the experience in the different settings is really helpful for us to know as clinicians, when it's time to refer someone to a higher level of care, and just to be familiar with it, and hopefully to get to work in that one again one day.
Exactly. Well, that's why I'm glad that we're talking about this. We chatted about this during the break, but just because the experience, again, if there are students listening thinking about this kind of long-term maybe goals and where you want to work, even let's just say that your end goal would be to work in a private practice setting like both of us right now, I would highly still stress the importance of working in other settings previously. Yeah. I value that working in the residential treatment center and with a government agency, and I did another like in a private clinic as well, but still like more of a group agency practice. And the different settings like that are just so enriching and helps you to develop the different lens and take on the different perspective working in these different, completely different approaches, basically. You can work in government agencies, hospitals, schools.
Yeah. Like I worked in a crisis unit, and that was really enlightening. So essentially our hospital down here operates a lot like that. It's for emergencies. It holds people for a couple days to a couple weeks. I actually did that a lot in Florida. We even had a child's unit. And so it's really interesting, really opens your eyes to just what can happen, what can go on, that suicidal, homicidal ideation does happen even in children. And with the adults, that was what really highlighted to me the benefits of medication. But when I'm working with a client, to be able to explain to them what's going to happen at the hospital, if we refer them overseas to a residential program, what to expect then, I think it's really helpful that, that we've got that firsthand experience to be able to let them know.
We're not just sending them somewhere that we don't know what it's like.
Good luck.
If I am referring them to a residential, like a rehab facility, this is generally what to expect. I always say, of course, every place is going to be different from when I used to work at one. This is what you can generally kind of expect, talking about the rules and all kinds of things. So it's so important that we've got this different experience, too, to be able to really give that collaborative, holistic treatment.
And for my students who I work with on island, I often recommend that they do get experience in other countries, like going overseas. It's a huge decision for them. So at UCCI now we have the applied psychology concentration, and we have the social work degree, which will be a bachelor's that should be able to be licensed as well. But for those of them looking at counseling, marriage, family therapy, psychology, or the likes, or a master's in social work, a lot of the programs require research methods as well as abnormal psychology. So we offer both of those now at UCCI, and that's where I think the internships are really important, because a lot of our students, when they decide to do graduate level work, they are having to move country. And so that's where I think it's really helpful to go check out the school and, talk to everyone and do some internships on island to make sure it's what you want to do, and that we can make the most of it. But I think you grow a lot professionally, but also personally through that experience too, and working with different populations.
Well, I'm with you. I think that if we look back to our seafarers, I think that's part of the reason why, not just, why they have that wisdom and that knowledge, but the experience that they had. Very early on, they traveled the world. They had to be responsible. This ship something that isn't done right, there's a significant consequence. Then they travel around the globe, they met different people, saw different things that give them a perspective. Could I just ask, just to recap, for the student, and maybe I'll speak only to the American university system, feel free to add others, but let's say the child who's leaving here and is going to go off to university, whether at UCCA, but let's go overseas, 4 years for their undergrad, and then what? I mean, I know you mentioned a couple of times, but just recap it for me.
Yeah, quick recap, I guess, in terms of just the education process.
Just the educational process.
Yep. So generally, and again, maybe speaking from the American system that I know, generally a bachelor's degree is your 4-year degree. And so if you definitely want to work in the mental health field, you have to plan for some education. 4 years bachelor's degree. After that, you can either choose to get your master's degree, which again is usually 2 to maybe 3 years, or you can choose the route to get your master's and then your PhD, which is then an additional 3 to 7 years after that sometimes. So there's a range depending on the program as well.
Yeah, which is a caveat with psychology because so each of us are regulated by an association, right? So there's I think it's the American Association of Marriage Family Therapy, right? There's the American Counseling Association. I'm monitored by the American Psychological Association. They accredit programs. And so this is something I always tell students to look at is so to get licensed in Cayman, you have to be licensable somewhere else, which for me, I maintain my U.S. license for that reason. But make sure that the school that you're going to is accredited. I've met a lot of students who did degrees who are mental health related but aren't licensable. You have to have supervised experience in counseling or in therapy or in psychology in order to get the license. And that varies from state to state. In the U.S., the UK I'm not as familiar with. But we've got Dr. Day and Dr. Lam at Wellness Center who are from the UK. And Dr. Lam is often open to discussing that.
We're going to have her on at some point to speak about that issue.
But with psychology, the APA doesn't like to transfer master's credits. And that's where it gets tricky. So a lot of my students, I tell them if they want to do clinical psychology and they know that, go for it. Some of the clinical psychology programs, you can get licensed master's level, but most of them you can't. Like NOVA was not set up to do that. So some programs like Carlos Albizu University, which I think just changed its name, they actually had a 4-year program running full-time. So they had a 4-year PsyD program, as did Florida Institute of Technology, but that's not the norm. It's normally 5 years in-house for psychology. Their first 2 years lined up with a counseling degree, and they got licensed as counselors. For NOVA, it didn't work like that. But even my friends who came in with master's degree in mental health counseling or even in psychology, a lot of times they weren't able to transfer their credits because APA differentiates between master's and doctoral credits. So that would be something to look into before going on.
So look at this, as we go to the breakdown, look at the school.
Right.
Make sure that the school is accredited. Make sure that the program is licensed or accredited by...
Yes. The programs can also be accredited. Right. That's really important. To pick the school, but also the program.
And in America, they have to give outcomes. So if you get... So I have something I share with my students called the Insider's Guide to Graduate Programs in Psychology and Counseling. And it will tell you everything you need to know about the school. So this is obviously for those getting into graduate school. It will tell you the orientation of the program. If you want to do CBT, you're not going to go to a psychodynamic program. Right? A lot of schools right now are going to be CBT. It tells you how many people apply, what the GPA was for their undergraduate. There's something called the Graduate Record Exam, the GRE, which is a graduate form of the SAT, which is required by some of the schools to get in. If there's any prerequisite courses, so abnormal psych and research methods are the ones I normally see come up. But also, it'll tell you if they get internships. So with psychology, the clinical internship is the 5th year. 1 in 4 students don't get it. It's extremely competitive, and there's actually different levels of internship. So they will tell you how many of their students get internships, which will give you the general idea of the quality of the program. It'll also tell you how many of them get licensed afterwards. Because like Harvard had a program, but it wasn't accredited. They were in the process of getting accredited.
There you go. Yes. She's
but it wasn't accredited, which doesn't guarantee licensure. And so especially, so this is I might put my foot in my mouth this, but especially the online programs, I want to make sure that anyone who does any of those, make sure it's accredited. There is, I think, fielding is accredited, and make sure you get good supervised experiences, because supervision is such an important part of developing yourself as a professional, but also preparing you for life after school.
All right. Well, when we come back from this final break of this segment, you guys can share with us some more, and I think parents are going to have a lot to talk about with their children tonight. I'm going to have all the students studying psychology and no economists. I don't know. All right, please stay tuned for Talk Today.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
For 50 years, Cayman Airways has been connecting the Cayman Islands to the world, welcoming visitors to our shores and taking residents to exciting destinations. Whether for well-earned vacations, productive business trips, or simply reconnecting with friends and family, Cayman Airways has been honored to be part of your lives for 50 years. Cayman Airways airfares are now on sale for some destinations for travel in the fall. Sale ends August 11th. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Money Sense, bringing an informed financial perspective to the Cayman community. Brought to you by the CFA Society Cayman Islands and sponsored by One Trade X. Tune into Money Sense this Thursday as we discuss soft commodities with Adam Newman. Soft commodities, what are they? Why should investors consider them? And how does one include soft commodities in a portfolio? Money Sense, Thursday, 7:30 a.m. on Radio Cayman. Follow the conversation on Twitter at Money Sense Radio. Money Sense, the only personal finance radio show in the Cayman Islands. Brought to you with the support of One Trade X.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-TALK. As we, welcome you to be a part of our mental health matters. A few minutes left for this segment. Looking forward to next month's sort of installation. But quick programming note at the break at 1:30 as our guests leave us. Mr. Mario Rankin will join us and we'll have some open line. But as we talk about careers in mental health, you guys obviously are competent. You're committed to your profession. You're confidential. You have all the attributes. There's always a passion and enthusiasm. But in everything, I mean, there must be, ups and downs, ins and outs, so on. So share with us some more, Dr. Alexandra Borden and Ms. Talastrale.
Yeah. Well, that's what we just wanted to make sure. I know we've gotten really content heavy, sort of, if you will, for good reason. But we wanted to make sure that we also just touched on and highlighted the reasons that we're in this field and that we do work so hard and go to school for so many years and continue to get licensed and educate and continuing education credits are because of all the benefits of this field. And I know that I'm probably saying for both of us, but just how much we are, how much we love it and how passionate we are in working with people. I think we both shared in our stories initially that it was because that we, of course, were interested in helping people that got us interested in the field to begin with. And that's what we do get to do pretty much on a daily basis. But it goes so much further than that, and that's what I really wanted to speak to as well. It's not just the concept of helping people make changes. It's a very fascinating field, I believe. And if you don't have the interest in there as well as the passion to help people, it's really much more likely you're much more likely to get burnout very quickly, lead to burnout very quickly. Wow. It's really, you have to stay curious, I say, with every case, every person, every client is new and different, and getting curious is really important. But one of the biggest things that I love is that it's just always different. I knew one thing, but before I knew what I wanted to do, I knew that I wanted something that was always going to be stimulating and challenging and different. And that's what I'm very grateful for with this job, is that it's always different. And so it's never predictable, and there are always new challenges. And I do enjoy that part of our work.
If I may ask of you, with some professions, you have your first degree, and then you decide, I want to get another degree or I want to change careers. So with that first degree, you could go into other areas. With psychology, if your first degree, let's say you're an accountant or lawyer, but let's say accountant, because in the Cayman context, many of us have studied accounting, finance, something in that field. But now they always want to be a psychologist.
Yeah.
How do you have to start over? I mean, how does that work?
No, you do not.
Okay.
No, yeah.
So you have a first degree,
and there's all different ways as well. Even like if there's even like addiction counseling, which is like just a certificate. So the bachelor's degree is kind of the minimum if you want to get into the graduate level work. But I think we come from like people in my programs came from all different backgrounds, and then you bring something a bit different to it, right? When I teach about counseling theories and psychotherapy, we always talk about that as a clinician, your person is your biggest tool, and that's really what you bring into the counseling relationship. So it's never too late. We had a lot of people who were 50s and 60s that came back that were changing professions, or something came up, or they always wanted to do it and didn't have the opportunity before. So it's never too late.
So for that person, sorry, Ms. Dallas.
Oh no, I was just going to say, it's never too late. And also, as we were just talking about, but your experience is never then quote unquote wasted, right? Because no matter what it is, the whole field of mental health, no matter which way you decide to go in it, is all about relationships. At the end of the day, is forming relationships and understanding them through the therapeutic relationship. That's the most important piece of it. So in any context that you've worked, whether it's in business and law and teaching, I mean, it's all about relationships, though. At the same time, if you have those skills, you can transfer them to mental health. So it's not ruled out. I've done this job for 20 years.
Never be a therapist.
I have just one of my best friends in my graduate program, still today, but it was amazing to me. She was a religion major, and she was in music and drama. Like, that was her focus when she went to college. And then she went and worked for a few years, and then realized, like, this wasn't it for me. This isn't enough. And so she came back to go to marriage and family therapy, to become a marriage and family therapist. It's just incredible. So there's no one path.
Yes. Well, because I was even thinking, I know she's shared it on here, is Miss Heather Lockhart, who I do a lot of work with, who was in sales for many years and phenomenal at it. She still is amazing. I would buy anything from her, I'm not going to lie. But she's now a life coach, which is another part of the field that we haven't talked too much about. And she's just getting into it, and she does a really great job. We do a lot of workshops together, and she's extremely powerful in the work that she does as well.
Okay. So that person then who, maybe in that career, who may be interested or have been, let's just again go back to the person working at Cayman who's in banking or finance or accounting or somewhere, has that first degree, maybe even a CPA for argument's sake, so has a professional qualification, but wants to get into counseling and psychology. They can pick up where they are and then go masters and whichever.
Yeah,
all
basically,
right.
Yeah. They'll just need to look at if there's any tests or anything that they need to get in. But there's actually some programs that don't even require, like the GRE or anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you have to look at the requirements. That's
it. So investigate, make sure that the school is one that's accredited. The program has it. Like I know with certain professions, there are accrediting bodies for that. So look for those things. What are those accrediting bodies that people who are studying psychology should be looking for accredited by?
For psychology, it's going to be the American Psychological Association.
APA?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also another body that manages the internships, which is APIC, but APA is who accredits the schools for psychology.
Okay.
And then for my field, it's the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy.
And counseling is the American Counseling Association. And some schools may not have it yet, but will be trying for it. And sometimes those are easier to get in. They have to have students go through the program to prove that they're worthy. So I know I joked about Harvard earlier, but I'm sure that they are credentialed now. But there's this process, but it's important to know that they don't have it yet.
Okay. Now, you reference, so in closing, I don't want to be disrespectful, and certainly I don't want to say it properly, but a doctor, a lawyer, for instance, probably the best examples. I think engineers equally come into that. You want to be called those things, you need to be licensed. You need to have something. With psychologists, therapists, with the different terminologies, is that the same thing? You need to be licensed, credential?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep. And so in Cayman, we're regulated by the Council for Professionals Allied with Medicine, which is CPAM. And they license counselors, right? They license psychologists, master's level and doctoral level. And I think social workers are in there as well, yeah. But CPAM is who registers us on island, but you have to be able to be licensed somewhere else first. So wherever you're deciding to go to school, whether it's the UK or America, actually I think Canada actually just does a registration. You need to make sure that you would be eligible to work wherever it is that you're training.
Okay.
And then that you will then bring to CPAM to get licensed here. I know we mentioned life coaching. I know that that the International Federation for Coaching has very good standards for that. So with coaching, you'll be looking for credentials. With us, you'll be looking for licensing and registration.
Okay. For CPAM, that's the Council for Professionals Allied to Medicine.
With medicine.
Which is a government agency under the law.
Right, part of the Health Practice Commission, I believe.
So you need to be satisfied them, like how you satisfy the people who license lawyers or what have you.
Right. That's our board here.
Yeah.
Basically.
So you show them your credentials, and they say, "Yep, this meets the criteria," because you can be licensed. And again, just use the states as an example.
And you need to check the countries as well. I think it's the US, the UK, Canada, New Zealand, Jamaica. There might be another, Australia. Yeah.
Okay.
There's only about 6 or 7 last I checked. So but CPAM actually regulates everyone, acupuncturists, chiropractors, everyone. So you want to make sure that that you have a board there. Like Jamaica doesn't have a psychology board.
Okay.
I tried to get licensed there.
But this is it. I mean, we spend a lot of time, not just money, invested in this education. You want to know that your clients are.
Yeah, and so I love having this conversation early, and I think it's important if you are looking at graduate school, going ahead and looking at it. And I think realizing that if you have a bachelor's in psychology, you can do research, you can do a lot of jobs, but it's going to be hard to get into mental health with it.
Exactly.
Short of like a psychosocial rehabilitation program.
Yeah, and that's why I always tell people if you're interested in this field that, you just need to know that you're going to be going on for higher education. If just getting a bachelor's in psych is not enough, you cannot do the clinical work that you're interested in without going on and getting additional training.
Okay, we'll do one little plug. There is ABA programs on island that you can get registered with.
ABA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Applied Behavioral Analysis.
Right, and they work a lot with autism. So Wellness Center has one, and they actually will do, so they've actually registered a lot of Caymanian clinicians recently, which is an RBT training, which is run by Ms. Sloan Farr over at the Wellness Center, who's looking to get more young Caymanians in and educated. With that, you can work on island, so I think you have to be supervised by them, but you can work as a clinician.
But this is for those who already have their first degree or...
No. This is a program all on its own.
Okay.
Right, so that's at the Wellness Center.
I was just going to say Cayman ABA also does that program as well. So Cayman ABA as well, they're training ABA therapists as well and technicians. So you can go ahead and complete those trainings and work in the field without that 4-year degree and that additional training.
It will be a very specialized certification, though, for a specific population, but if that's what you want to do.
Really working with children and behavioral needs. That's the, in a nutshell.
An ABA therapist,
Yes.
sort of. Okay.
Yeah.
See that? You learn something new every day. And I'm hopeful,
Well, and I will say, that there are often a lot of stresses that come with it. You are a part of a lot of the difficult times in people's lives when you're in our field. But because people often ask me, how can you do this for a job? And I say, you're a part of the hard times, but you're part of the good times too. You get to be a part of of them getting better, of them making changes, of them being able to do things that they never thought possible. And I think that what this work has really taught me is just to have really respect for individuals. A lot of people get, kind of like intimidated by my degrees, but I was like, really, it's such a humbling profession. I think any client who comes in is just so courageous, and I learn something from every client that I meet.
100%.
And I really have respect for them and the resilience. It's amazing what people can go through and work through. It's phenomenal.
I'm in awe of my clients all the time, and that's why it's just it's such an amazing, humbling field, like you said.
Well, that's why I enjoy, you, and I respect, greatly value both of you for taking this time, and hopefully, not just the students, but or the children. I don't want to call them children. I say students, but the parents in particular, paying attention and seeing how we can encourage and nurture our children. And if they want to study, this area, well, question them, guide them, but help them to understand that they can do more than just what that degree says, and don't dismiss psychology.
Well, and you can have a successful career, in mental health. I think that's important as well. It's not just in finance. A very rewarding career as well. I was just going to mention the clinical internships that, that people are often asking me about, like FRC does a great job with providing paid volunteer opportunities, which is
also
good.
a misnomer.
They've got like the SNAP program, but I keep them listed on my website on drbodden.com under for students. So I try to keep those up to date of contact people and where to go, like counseling center.
And counseling center has an internship program as well.
All right. And other final closing thoughts, maybe Dr. Borden, Ms. Dallas, maybe you for...
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, you're just talking about parents again and, helping support children. If we are talking about students, whether they're students that are 19, 20 or 40-some plus looking to go back. But my biggest thing, again, is just to reach out actually to a mental health professional. And more than not, I would say that we're willing to chat with you and answer any questions that you have. For me, personally, that was the most helpful experience that I had when I was trying to figure out all the difference and where to go and what to choose, was just really getting to know a social worker, a clinical psychologist, a marriage and family therapist, and just talking to them and getting your questions answered. That's the biggest help, more than just what the screen can tell you. Google has a lot of answers, but again, we're talking about relationships and being a therapist and a counselor, that it's about having a conversation.
Yeah,
and so
Google
reach out
is
to
no
us.
Mrs. Doubtfire, right? Google is no Mrs. Doubtfire.
True.
Dr. Borden?
Yeah. I'd say that there's especially now, there's so many resources available on Island, education-wise as well as people-wise. So definitely, I think it's worth considering a career in mental health if it's something that you're interested in. We definitely have more Caymanians coming into it. Would love to see more as well. And definitely reach out to us if you have any questions. Our contact information will be up on drbodden.com, as well as all the persons that we've had in before. I know we've had in a lot of different professions with us, so psychiatrists, social workers, counselors, teachers. So even like Dr. Samuels is actually, specializes in other kinds of psychology. So there's a lot of, and we didn't even touch on neuropsych or...
I know.
Next time.
Yeah. We could do part 2 for this one.
So I'd say, reach out, ask questions. It's a great field. We'd love to have you.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to continuing discussion. Thank you each, individually but collectively. Thank you for all the time. And hopefully as we start to think of career options, not just other careers other than that in our financial sector, we'll see that there's much more available to our people, and they can still be very successful and still remain here if they choose. All right.
Absolutely.
Next month's discussion, Dr. Borden. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So our listeners will pause, take a short break. Mr. Mario Rankin is going to join me, keep my company so that it won't just be me, myself, and I. And it'll be open line, so stay tuned for Talk Today.
Nursing, education, social work, media studies, hospitality, electrical, plumbing, AC. Wow, I didn't even know that the University College of the Cayman Islands offered all that.
Yes, all that and more, as well as event management and QuickBooks. They also did customized training for our staff last month. Hey, didn't your son just graduate from high school? Take him so he can apply for the fall semester.
Pursue your academic and professional goals at UCCI. Admissions are ongoing. Classes start August 27th. Visit them or call 623-8224 to learn more.
Hey, are those new glasses on Will?
Yeah, we went to Optical Outlook. Wham, bam, easy exam. Finally, an exam he could pass. And we had the glasses the next day. Easiest part of our back-to-school shopping for sure.
Book your child's exam today at Optical Outlook. Call 746-2020. Save 50% off a complete pair of glasses with any student eye exam. From now until August 31st. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook. Located in the Caymanian Village. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Pirates Cave and Eatery.
Tune in Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m.
Exclusive.
Radio Cayman's Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio, featuring Will Sinatra. Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, dancehall, and soca, and an entertainment trivia section.
Another proud sponsor of the Super Jam Show.
Pirates Cave and Eatery.
Bring your family, satisfy
Place
your
household
appetite,
garbage in large
enjoy
bags
the
prior to
ambience.
its placement in a garbage container to avoid spillage during collection. A suitable garbage container must be made of sturdy materials that will allow it to withstand weathering. A tightly fitted cover is also necessary to keep out water and stray animals. Do your part. Keep your surroundings clean. Store household garbage in a suitable garbage container. For more tips on proper waste packaging, please visit DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's new kitchen and bath center.
Wow, looks good. What is that?
Chicken chair.
What did you just say to me?
Chicken chair.
I am not a chicken.
Whoa! I said chicken share. It's from KFC. Bucket of 12 hot wings, 6 pieces of chicken, or 8 tenders. KFC chicken share. Just $12 each.
Oh.
Want some chicken, tenders, or hot wings?
You're sharing your chicken share with me?
The new chicken share from KFC. Just $12 each. And it's finger-licking good. Dine at KFC Baytown Plaza, KFC Shedden Road, or KFC at the Strand.
Not all insurance is created equal, but who has the time to shop around? Take the guesswork out of your insurance coverage with Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Let us match you with the best coverage to suit your needs at a price to suit your wallet. Plus, get superior customer service from dedicated claims professionals to ensure speedy claims processing. Get your insurance through Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
What's new this Wednesday?
Glad you mentioned that. Nothing new, innit?
We are back with more Proud of Them Cayman honors.
And I make my mommy proud, and I make my daddy proud, and I make my family proud, and I make this nation proud. We will be proud, we will be proud.
More Proud of Them Cayman honorees.
Tune in for the exclusive on their lives leading up to being awarded. Stick around for another fun-filled roundtable.
You heard that right. Roundtable is back.
Tune in this Wednesday from 4 to 5 on Radio Cayman 89.9 FM.
U-Flex, a program for all people by young people.
U-Flex, more than talk. Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255 in the studio. As part of our next hour, it's going to be open line, and joining me to encourage and engage in the discussion, the dialogue, and the whole discourse is Mario Rankin. I was thinking as you were sitting down, this was a boxing match. I could say in this corner announcing, and then Mario, I wonder what your handle will be. Like you got Charles the Killer Whitaker. What will Mario the what rank? What will Mario's handle be, huh?
I don't know. I don't know.
You don't
know? To be
know?
honest with you, I never really gave that any thought until just that moment.
I know I dropped it on you.
Before the end of the show, I come up with a nice, swift little name,
There you go, man. There you go. And the thing is, the reason why I was saying that is it's not even so much to be rhetorical, not to even expect an answer from me at all, but the idea that in our society, someone like a Mr. Billy Adams, for instance,
right,
a man that I think is not only respected, but is very respectful, right, of others, of this community, of his people. But a man that is well read, informed, and is willing to share with you, to make you better, to put you in a better position, to do better, right? And yet, sometimes we don't want to heed the counsel, the warning, whatever we want to call it, that sort of heads up. And yet, Mr. Billy will say to you, he is, on his way, looking forward down the road to maybe, going for a little fishing or a little sailing. People like us now, we're still getting the soldiers to get into the boat to go fishing, if you see what I'm going on, right? We got to pick up the mantle. So thankfully, people like you are doing that.
No, I appreciate the comments, and I do appreciate all of the contributions Mr. Billy make, because it's very educational, And I think that he puts a lot of research and thought into any subject that he calls in or participates in having a conversation with. And I think it's very enlightening and educational. And you can learn a lot when you listen to people like Mr. Billy.
Something I want to ask our listeners, Mario. Just like how economics impacts all of our lives, whether we're conscious of it or not. We're all constantly making choices and decisions, not just on how we're going to spend the money, whether we have enough to spend, but how we're going to spend our time and
where
the cost
we prioritize the spending.
Politics, in whatever format, affects all of our lives.
Yeah,
we're seeing constantly, at least it seems to me, a constant discussion now about our political sort of situation, our constitutional position. All right.
Yeah, it's... No, go ahead and finish your thought, because
we have members of the British Parliament visited the part of some group that should be helping to advocate, so on. And according to people who interacted with them, their comments were similar to others, other MPs in the past. But again, this is only sort of secondhand.
Right.
So an individual who was in one of their little discussions said how these guys were very, very courteous, very polite, very professional. One or two were very direct in their sort of casual conversation. I don't think too many of them were really that casual necessarily. But talked about, having a sense of equality within, the political paradigm that we have, the change in. And this notion that when I look at Orwell, for instance, all men are critical except some are more equal than others. How can Cayman as 1OT and BVI and all the other ones, how can you have seen the equality when they're not equal? There are significant fundamental differences in their population growth, their development, their political maturity, the willingness of their political directorate as well as their electors to do certain things, right? And then their own experiences.
Well, let me just be clear on something. You saying that there are a delegation of MPs from the UK here now, currently? Are they gone?
Well, I'm not sure if they're gone or just about to leave, but they were here for a couple of days.
I missed them because I've been away too long. I just got back today. I wish I would have had an opportunity to have a conversation with them, because you got to remember now.
But
yeah, go ahead.
Would you, me, the regular people, see these people?
Well, I think the regular people should see these people, because it's the regular people who feel in the consequences of all poor legislation that is in place and legislation that create hindrance to the masses. We live in the consequences of poor legislation and policies. So if there's anyone that should be telling the tale of what the landscape and the consensus of the people is the people. So not some misrepresentation from a politician who thinks he knows what the problem is because he delivered a turkey during election time and think that that's all good. I mean, let me ask you a question, Sterling.
Yes, sir.
From man to man here on this radio station.
All right.
Have you ever seen a politician during election time down in Crystal Harbor giving out turkeys?
What is the perception of a politician down in those types of neighborhoods?
All I'm saying is that the politicians are very, very, very clear as to who can afford to live the Caymanian dream compared to the person who can't afford to live the Caymanian dream. The people who give the envelopes with the checks, they don't need to give turkeys to. They go to the average person who they feel is struggling, who they know is struggling. And instead of them carrying a piece of legislation, showing them what they're going to do in terms of helping them be able to buy their own turkey, they go down there with the hopes and dreams that they can dupe these poor people into getting their vote again so that they can continue the work of the upper class of this country. And that's the problem. If we had the same amount of money to lobby for the poor people of this country like the rich people have to lobby for themselves, I think we'll have a better balance. But, of course, a battery can't work with two positives or two negatives. It has to have a positive and a negative. But the problem is that politicians don't realize that it's their 100% responsibility to create that sustainable environment and create that balance where We know everybody not going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant, or a banker, or a CEO. We understand that. We have to have plumbers, electricians, garbage men, and individuals who maintain our yards and take care of kids and cook food and all these other things. We understand that. But if we create an environment that only people that are making X amount of money on the top tier of things can survive in a society where everybody have to interact with each other, it's going to create a social issue. And I don't think that any politician can reasonably sit down in front of anybody and say, hey, the system that we have in place now is working great for everybody, because you and I both know the writing is on the wall. The things that are blatantly obvious to our society and our people are that we're struggling, and that's a fact.
All right. We're going to first break of our segment, Mr. Mario. Phone lines are open. Hopefully they're working, and I know Mr. O.C. had some significant problems on last Friday, and I've experienced them from time to time. I have to wonder why that is, but anyway. 949-8037. Give us a shout. When we come back, we'll be able to continue a discussion with Mario Rankin.
Wow, looks good. What is that?
Chicken share.
What did you just say to me?
Chicken share.
I am not a chicken
Whoa! I said chicken share. It's from KFC. Bucket of 12 hot wings, 6 pieces of chicken, or 8 tenders. KFC chicken share. Just $12 each.
Oh.
Want some chicken, tenders, or hot wings?
You're sharing your chicken share with me?
The new chicken share from KFC, just $12 each, and it's finger-licking good. Dine at KFC Baytown Plaza, KFC Shedden Road, or KFC at the Strand.
Not all insurance is created equal, but who has the time to shop around? Take the guesswork out of your insurance coverage with Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Let us match you with the best coverage to suit your needs at a price to suit your wallet. Plus, get superior customer service from dedicated claims professionals to ensure speedy claims processing. Get your insurance through Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's new kitchen and bath center.
Hi, this is your reigning queen, Miss Cayman Islands Universe 2017, Anika Connolly. Join me on Saturday, 11th of August at the Westin Resort and Spa to find out which one of the 7 beautiful contestants will take over my crown. I'm excited to announce that pageant tickets are now on sale at Sand Angels in Camana Bay and Funky Tangs in Georgetown.
Come out on August 11th at the Westin to support us for
the Miss Cayman Islands Universe pageant. There will be a cocktail reception at 6 p.m. and the show starts at 7 p.m. sharp. Lights, camera, glitz. We hope to see you there.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. In the studio, keeping my company, Mr. Mario Rankin. And it's open line. The phone lines are there. If you want to call, 949-8837 or 1-800-534-8255. You can always WhatsApp 925-32621. Mario, if I could, unless you want to jump in and share something, as we go into the break, I want to ask you. You were sharing something earlier, and I was inclined to reflect on other conversations that I've been having with people recently. Partly because of I guess what's unfolding when we look at the constitutional discussions. Right. There are 2 petitions: one to bring back, the governor; one to elevate the deputy governor. There are those who are saying, "Well, this will mean this," and those who are saying that. 2 things, right? Mm-hmm. People. And I'm trying to think if anybody has said it differently, but nothing comes to mind. Every single person, however they've said it, the implication has been that people have this perception that politicians take things personally.
They do.
You criticize them or their policies or whatever, but they hold a grudge.
Well, you want my opinion now?
Yeah.
I thought you had another.
No. I better hang on a second because I'm right down.
Well, I think I don't think that there's no myth in Cayman. We've seen just about everybody who voiced their political opinion publicly be victimized if it's not what the sitting government at the time is a part of. They clearly victimize you. It happened to many people in this country. They could call in right now and give their testimonies. We understand that is the landscape. That's the environment we live in. Hence the reason why you see a lot of people refrain from calling the radio station and contributing or sending things that would expose them to the public in terms of what their political views are. But I think that when you talk to individuals privately or publicly, you get the consensus that everybody is sharing the same issues and everybody have the same concerns about the issues. And I think that it's important that we don't strip away the ability of any individual, whether it be civil servants or members of the public, their ability to voice their opinions and even contribute to a solution or be a part of the solution. The reality is that every time you have conversations, because the civil service is one of the largest employers on island, you find yourself more times than none where you're having a very good conversation about fundamental issues that are affecting the Caymanian people, and then you want to put together a team of people in order to deal with this situation, and then you find yourself standing alone because half of those individuals, or if not more than half, are subjected to the civil service contract where they can't voice their opinions publicly or politically publicly and all these other things. And I think that's one of the things in the Constitution that we need to strip away, because if we can't collectively as people, regardless of what department or private sector or public sector that we work for, if we can't collectively come together to work for the better good of Caymanians and for the better good of Cayman and its future generations, without being victimized by a contract that the government strategically put in place in order to eliminate that participation by those individuals, at least limit it to a certain where they're not public with it. So if we were to go right now, which we intend to push heavily the referendum, the people's referendum for this port, we're not letting them build a port without the people deciding whether we need the port or not. That's a fact. If we were to go right now and have a meeting and have a series of meetings, of course we're going to have a lot of civil service people who would attend but won't be able to come out and demonstrate publicly because of the contractual arrangement that they have with the government. And we need to go through our Constitution, not every month, but we need to find the key things that are creating the most hindrance when it comes to the continuity of Caymanians and what Caymanians stand for, and we need to fix those things. And and it's not just one issue. There's a myriad of issues. We got the human right aspect of it that we need to make sure that we clarify in certain areas. We have the legal aspect of it. We have the right to have an opinion based on capital projects in which the government embarks on spending the public's purse on. We need to be a part of these discussions, and we have to collectively be a part, whether you civil service or in the private sector. So it's important that we have discussions and we bring those things to the forefront, because if we don't have these discussions, what happens is that the generation that's behind us, they have front row seats to our behavior. So then it becomes systematically an issue where everybody is taught the same propaganda, and then it becomes a norm, and then and in order to break that, it creates a radical change. We've seen the paradigm shift. We've seen it. You understand? People in Cayman now are far more aware now than we ever was in politics, simply because of the power of technology, and we all know that. So, like right now, just before, on my drive over here, I was looking at a lot of messages and stuff that I got while I was off island for a couple of weeks, and I see now where on the dawn of the local electricity company increasing their rates, I see that some people light bills are doubling. Let me just say for the public's benefit, if your light bill, and I'm speaking hypothetically here, if your bill is normally $400 to $500 and varies depending on how long you run your air conditioner or how long you do certain things that consume more current, it is physically impossible for your house to double its bill unless you have a house that is identical plugged into your meter. So there has to be a technical problem or a physical problem. a lot of people do not want to go the extra mile to get the independent monitors hooked up on their meters. I can tell you this based off of experience. I had a situation where my meter had jumped from $600 a month to $1,400, and they billed me for one whole year. And I paid it, and then when I got the independent meter, I found out that the meter was faulty, and CUC had to pay back in credit. So I never paid a light bill for a couple of months, almost a year, because they were repaying what they had taken. So I think that it's the utility company responsibility to have people that narrates and monitors these smart meters, because when you look at a smart meter and you see that for the last 5 years you've been burning an average of $600 a month, in between $400 to $600. You telling me now that my light bill goes to $1,400 and nobody cares to say, well, there got to be a problem?
Okay, now, speaking to that, for instance, we understand that there needs to be some sort of regulatory agency.
And this is the problem, that we have no regulation on the compulsory items in this country, so they're allowed to do or not do what they want to, and this is the problem we're having.
But the general public, and since you put CUC as an example, the general public will say, well, what's my choice? Pay the bill and complain about it, or don't pay the bill and be, left in the dark, literally. Most people don't think that there is a mechanism or means for themselves.
Well, I think the biggest issue is it all boils down to dollars and cents, because an individual, most individuals are not going to have the resources to go and get these independent studies done on their monitors, on their meters, or they're not going to have the financial resources to hire a lawyer to look into the contractual agreement. Listen, the utility company has an obligation to provide a service to you based on what your kilowatt hours are. It's their responsibility. It is in their contract. So if there's something abnormal within that consumption, and it's coming from their end, because you're not a utility company. You're not providing what they're charging you for. They're providing what they're charging you for. So it's their responsibility to ensure. And I know for a fact that you can't 100% stamp out every error, but you need to be on top of these errors, especially when it's an error that's costing somebody food or gas or a school fee, or for one of their kids. Because when you got a $700 light bill and then you get a $1,400 light bill, that's an additional $700. Something is going to create a gap somewhere in your monthly bills or in your monthly budget. So it's important that they be responsible. They be responsible corporate citizens in this country and monitor these things and notify that homeowner and say, hey, look, we noticed that last month your bill was this month is that. We understand this is the summer, you consume a little bit more energy than normal, but doubling your bill is a little bit off the radar. And these are the things that regulation will ensure happen.
Let me ask of you, because I think many recognize not just your knowledge and interest, but you have a level of expertise, certainly a profound interest in the subject. The perception that summer comes along, therefore you burn more your bill. After our news break, can we talk about that? I mean, does it have to be that way? I want to ask you about that. Will that be fine?
No, definitely. And I'll say it right before the 30 seconds click. I'll just say this. What a lot of people don't realize here in this country, that most people in Cayman take 2 to 3 week vacation breaks during the summer, but yet they bill doubles in any regard. So that needs to be talked about.
An anomaly. So I want to ask about that. All right, we're going to ask Mario, get his perspective. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Headline. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
Cayman's national under-15 girls squad beat Bahamas 4-1 this morning in their first match of the under-15 girls CONCACAF Championships in Bradenton, Florida. Chloe Bentic-Lally secured the first goal in the 12th minute, Alexia Bromfield scored in the 16th minute, and Molly Kehoe sealed the deal with 2 goals in the 35th and 66th minutes. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, a truck has exploded in a huge fireball on a motorway near Bologna, northern Italy, following a traffic accident. A lorry carrying cars collided on a bridge with another full of flammable materials, Italian media say. The bridge partly collapsed and fire spread to a car park below where several more vehicles exploded. 2 people have been killed and at least 60 injured. For more than a week, Bangladesh has been gripped by mass protests triggered by the death of 2 children in a traffic accident. The demonstrators, overwhelmingly young people, are demanding that the government take action to improve road safety. The movement has developed into a major standoff, and there have been scenes of violence in the streets of the capital, Dhaka, home to 18 million people. And Japan is considering adopting daylight saving time next year so that athletes in the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games can compete in cooler hours. The proposal to bring clocks forward by 2 hours has received major opposition on social media, with many worried it would result in longer working hours. At least 120 people have died in a record heatwave since July. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
The summer party has started, so watch out for great mobile deals and amazing free gifts from Flow. This summer, get the LTE Stream and Talk prepaid combo that suits you on the fastest 4G LTE network. Share the summer fun with a Flow Large Up combo for $19.99 with 2 gigs of data and 500 minutes to any local number. Plus, you can get free gifts from Flow, like barbecue grills, groceries, and air travel vouchers. Visit discoverflow.ky for more. Terms and conditions apply. Get your Flow prepaid combo and say, watch out, summer.
Pet owners are responsible for the protection of their pets during disaster events. If you plan to evacuate, plan for your pet as well, because they are not allowed in public emergency shelters. If you go to friends or relatives, and if it's okay to take your pets, also take your pet survival kit as well. Your kit should include proper ID, collar and tag, carrier or cage, leash, at least 2 weeks supply of moist pet food to preserve water or food bowls, any necessary medications, and plenty of newspaper for sanitary purposes and disinfectant. After the disaster, be careful in allowing your pets outside. Downed power lines, damaged buildings, and other animals and insects brought with the disaster could also present real dangers to your pet. Also, take care not to allow your pet to consume food or water which may have become contaminated.
This is brought to you by the Barbados Government Information Service and Breeze 105.3.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Mario Rankin, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you sitting in. Now, in relation to, if I understand your narrative over the years, you were sharing that when we look at the cost of living, the cost of business, that component that we spend for electric bills in particular is significant. It affects the bottom line of cost of living, the price of goods and the like, right?
Absolutely. When the last time you saw a big public outcry over the water bill?
All right. Well, true.
Right?
But even that, sometimes we could use some outcry.
But even so, though, we realize that is not much of a pressing issue as much as the utility. As electricity, right?
All right. I want you to share more with us in relation to what you shared earlier, and in particular this whole concept of summer, so therefore, must be higher. But before we do, we have a caller join us.
Okay.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, Dr. Steve. How are you, sir?
Fine, and good afternoon to your guest, Mr. Mario Ebanks, also.
Mario Rankin, sir.
Only one Ebanks in the studio, sir. It's okay.
Gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
You were speaking just now about, have a conversation just about the backlash, the what happens to you when you stand or when you do something in Cayman.
Yes, sir.
And things like that. That is true. Mm-hmm. But the thing that really bothers me is that the people that you're fighting for don't even appreciate the fact that you're fighting for them, and the apathy, the fact that you have, Cayman has reached a point now where what has become the rights of people has been reduced to mere privileges, and everybody seems to go around leaving you behind, leaving you by yourself, standing alone, and there's no collateral support in Cayman, really. The only support you have is like a few individuals, but there's no collateral report in Cayman, and that bothers me because, for instance, an example that I give, during the constitutional talk, I got on board with the Constitution, and the government at the day asked me to go around with them, helping to sell the Constitution to the people, to convince people that it was a good document, and that they should go out and put their name to the referendum for it. And it's because there were so many good things in the Constitution that I see that would enlighten the people and would bring them closer to the democratic system of government, the Westminster parliamentary system of government. And two of the things that come to mind is the standard of public life, and the standard in public life, and the district councils. And those institutions, if you read the preamble, if you read the reasons, some of the reasons for those institutions were to help and to have the people participate in their democratic system. Now, it's very strange that we've had some of those institutions are FOI law, the Constitution Commission, things like that. They put all of those things into place, but the two things which are significant, which are the significant institutions, the standard in public life, where the average, where the legislator has to declare his interest, and the district councils, where the people in the district has the right to participate in the running of the country by advising their elected members, people who elected to serve them in the district. And it seems to me that those are the two fundamental things. They have not put them into place. This is the third administration now that we're going into, and not one of them have put them into place, those significant things. And that's because I'm not too optimistic about the Cayman Islands anymore. I am very pessimistic because I see that none of them have it's even making any noise about it. In other countries, people would be out in the streets. People would die for their rights and stand up for their rights. It doesn't happen here. It's because now people have no rights, and people have come to the conclusion that there's nothing they can do. And so whatever you do, Mario, or whatever I do, or whatever anybody else do, is only because we cannot live and go on. That means go on into transition without knowing that we've done something. But as far as a catalyst for change, there's not going to be any change here. Yep. What they are doing is Cayman is going through a transitional period now. What they're doing now, they're eliminating all of the people who are not wealthy and rich, and they're only empowering those people who are rich. And soon, And like what happened when the Europeans came to the Western world and they saw the indigenous people, what they did, they destroyed their culture, they destroyed their wealth, they destroyed their food, the buffalo, they destroyed the foods they eat.
Ruin their identity.
They ruin them, and then they bring other people in their place. That is exactly what is happening here. And people who don't see that and can't see that on a daily basis and who doesn't resist that, I don't see much hope. I don't see much hope at all. I don't see much hope at all, because you would think that even the opposition people would be upset about not putting in the standard for public life and put in the district councils in their district, as what the Constitution says, to give people the right to participate into the democracy. Even that they haven't done. To me, whenever they do those things, then they can come and talk to me about other things like talking for further full internal self-government or full internal self-control. Whenever they do those two small things that the Constitution say that we should do, then they can come and talk to me. Otherwise, I don't want anyone to come and talk to me about anything.
I don't disagree. I agree.
All right, sir. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you.
All right, have a good afternoon.
Well, let me tell you, Dr. McPhail said a mouthful, and I totally agree with every single point that he made, and I would extend and say that when we look at our PR system and how easy it is to attain PR in our country, it has to be where they're trying to replace us. I have no doubt in my mind. And when you look at the emphasis that is being put on the industries that are in jeopardy, like the financial industry and other in the tourism industry, if we had that same level of emphasis put on the struggling class of the Cayman Islands, I don't think you'd have a lot of people complaining. And the reality is that, and I was going to ask Mr. McPhail while he was on the line if he think that Cayman is one of the only jurisdictions where our civil servants is bounded by a contractual agreement where they can't publicly participate in anything political, because I think that in itself creates the hindrance and the fear of individuals from being victimized once they voice their opinion politically. If they signed a civil servant contract and you work for the government, I used to be a civil servant and I had to sign that contract, and I was told clearly that I'm not to voice my opinion publicly, which I didn't at that point. But after that point, it became a landslide and a free-for-all. I've been victimized. I've gone through the entire system of victimization in this country, and I have taken it full blunt force head on. So I know what it feels like. So I'm numb to it now. I don't really care about what some ambitious list politician thinks about what my comments are based on his policies or what he's trying to implement. Because if you're not implementing something that is going to be to the benefit of everybody in this country, then we shouldn't be talking about it. We shouldn't be implementing it. If there's something in place that creates any hindrance to any Caymanian, we should be talking about removing it and fixing it. So I am with Dr. Steve 100% when it comes to constitutional order and changes that creates sustainable environment for Caymanians. The reality is like I said earlier, the politicians are very aware of those individuals who don't have to worry about what their electricity bill going to be or what their food bill going to be or what their gas bill going to be. They know who those people are. That's why they don't campaign in those areas. They campaign in areas where they can get elected in the average person's backyard, and that's where they go and have their yard meetings and their parties and their turkeys and their washers and their dryers and their little white envelope with money in it. Those are the realities of campaigning in the Cayman Islands. Nobody can't call here and say anything different, not even to the politicians. That's what takes place in this country. That's what gets people elected. Can you imagine? The politician goes to the average person to gain the power that they use to protect everybody except those who put them in power. And this is why it's imperative that people educate themselves, use platforms like this, come out. I understand that the fear of victimization is real. I understand why you don't want to do it, because you feel like if you don't have much now and you go out and do that, you're going to have even less. Look, nothing in this world now worth having if you don't have to fight for it. Otherwise, it's not worth having.
Well, Mario, as I listen to what you're sharing, there is this understanding, almost accepted belief that there's safety in numbers. We tell people when you go out, hang out together, stay together, move together, because the probability of, you getting attacked or mugged or hurt when there's a group of you reduces than when it's just maybe one.
Right? Yeah, no man is an island.
Right. So if you have a group of people working together, takes two hands to clap, we say. Understanding that, yet our people seem to not appreciate that if people, let's call them the voters, the electors, say, well, you know what, government is going on a particular policy. Maybe they're going to build something. Maybe they're proposing to do something. But the public says, no, that's not right now. We're not sure. Yet nobody says anything. It's just 1, 1, 1, 1.
Right. And there's always somebody who's out there who's willing to go out and champion the justification for doing something that shouldn't be priority. I mean, I called in here last week when you guys weren't talking about the boardwalk, and I expressed my concern, and I'm glad that we had two different sides of the opinions of it, because it's important that we have that dialogue. And what I was simply trying to express then, which I would just repeat very quickly, is that I don't have a problem with the government appropriating funds for certain things within the community, But how are we going to justify building any boardwalk at any cost when we got kids going to school hungry? We got kids standing up at supermarkets asking for money to go away on some sponsorship thing. We got charities feeding our children. We should not, under no circumstances, with a population of 50,000 people, with the fourth largest financial industry in the world, $2.7 billion in GDP, we should not have any charitable donations feeding or sending our kids on any vacations. It's ridiculous, and we need to put a stop to it. We're supposed to have proper instruments in place that extract monies from the economies that are doing well and from the industries that are doing well, and make sure that goes into a sovereign fund that takes care of education, healthcare, food, social services. That should be the priority of this country. We look at all the companies that are enjoying the free reign of no regulation, right? We look at the utility, we look at food, we look at these things, right? I understand what their business model is, I know I took a business class when I was in school. I didn't graduate from school, but it doesn't mean that I don't know what's happening and I don't understand what's taking place. Listen, the reality is that their model is based on consumer. And when you have a small consumer base, you have to increase your prices. That's a fact. That's the business model. That's how it works. So if you're telling me that the government not aware of that, then you're telling me something that I know isn't true. Right. So the government is very aware of that, Sterling. So they must understand that when a person wants to go buy a pair of shoes, that's their prerogative. But when a person have to provide a mortgage, food, gas, and utility, that's compulsory.
So they're prioritizing, other projects. Mr. Rankin, we do have a couple of callers.
Well, let's take those.
Take the first one in the queue. Good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Good afternoon.
How y'all doing?
Very well. How about yourself?
Good. You hit him under the belt.
Under the kneecap I going for.
Gee.
Even lower.
Oh, I tell you, Mario, it's a shame what's happening here in my little island.
It is. In our island.
Yeah, but I want to ask your opinion on the immigration amnesty, and if anyone do go back home, what are the chances of coming back? Because it wasn't good, not so good. I've been lying to you and being ungrateful. It has been good, and it's still pretty good. But to say that tourism is so good under the tourism admin and whatever else, Mr. Moses and so forth, I just wish that they could do so much more for the island, knowing that tourism is booming still this time of year, knowing it's a slow season, and they should invest more into the public schools, private schools, and teach our children more about tourism. Don't wait until they get 16 to graduate and say that you're not going to achieve much more in education right now. You're going to have to go and do the passport apprentice and all that kind of stuff. Why wait till the kid gets 16 years old? Why we can't do something now when they're young and see they want to grow into it?
I agree.
Some of them going there because they have no other choice to a certain extent. So if we get them from young in the high school or the primary school, teaching them tourism, knowing that is our largest pillar for the Cayman Islands. And if we don't do something, we're going to have to continue bringing people here to work in our tourism, which is not right. You imagine having a 75-year-old individual can come and greet people to take down to a hotel. When a Caymanian can do that, but yet when you get 65, they want to retire at 10 Cayman, but you can come here on a contract and work at the age of 75 and 76. That is not fair to us. I'm going to let you guys go, but I want to talk about the spraying tip. we deserve better than spray and chip in our side roads.
Chip and spray, yeah.
Yeah, we deserve better. If that's what they think of us, to give us that type of road to walk and drive on, they don't think nothing of us that vote to them. Believe me, they don't have us at their best interest. And let me tell you something. Another 4 years around the corner. They better be careful what they give us because we deserve the best. Nothing but the best. I thank you. We'll talk about it some more.
All right. Thank you very much. Mario?
Well, do we have another caller?
I don't know. Mr. Yeah, Mario, let's go to this line.
Yeah, I thought he said 2.
I thought so. Good afternoon. Welcome. You want to talk today?
Good afternoon. I'm wondering if your WhatsApp messages are working today.
Let us check. They were earlier. And if you sent one anytime since we've been on, it hasn't come through. So have you sent one to us?
Yes.
Oh, well, we apologize. Well, you know what? I got to say this, and I hope people are not offended, but I found in recent times, emails and WhatsApps and all the things that are supposed to be fairly instantaneous seems to either be sent by the Rembro or taking a detour because some don't arrive and some, when they do arrive, days later. So maybe it wasn't enough postage. I don't know.
Well, then I'm going to resend it.
All right. That's fine. Okay. Interesting, huh? You still there? Nope. Next call? Nope. Not yet. Okay.
Well,
go right ahead, sir.
I just want to obviously respond to the caller before the last and address some of the issues and some of the things she said. And one with the immigration amnesty. Obviously, I think that the immigration department needs to come up with more innovative ways in order to try to remedy some of the issues because of the manpower or the lack of manpower to go out and enforce and fine every person that overstayed or that break in immigration law. I don't know enough about the immigration amnesty. I've been gone for almost 4 weeks, and I haven't had an opportunity to really, read and see what it was all about. But again, if there is I'm just gonna guess that the amnesty is where certain individuals will have an opportunity to leave the jurisdiction if they're in violation of the overstay policy or those type of things, that they've given them an opportunity to leave without any recorded record on their thing. But certainly, I think that if a person comes in and signs up for the amnesty under the pretense that they overstayed, that we should put them on a watch list when they return to the island and have a caution in there, so that we would be able to process them differently than if there was a person that are just coming to our shores for the first time. So, I will say that I'm almost 100% sure that individuals who are in the immigration department that makes those decisions should be wise to that fact and probably have that in place. I don't know.
But let me ask of you, in an interview several years ago, the deputy governor in this capacity, and we were looking at immigration issues, had shared that there were people who come to our shores and during that time behaved a certain way. We asked them to leave our shores, declare them persona non grata. Those people have, the words were constantly daily bombarding the system to say, let us back in, right? And now that we're thinking of making exceptions to bring them back in.
Well, I won't make any comments in terms of what the environment was during the time that was happening. Mm-hmm. I will say this, that there should be there should be a lot of consideration and zero tolerance when it comes to individuals who deliberately come to our shores and overstay, understanding what the laws are when they come. Mm-hmm. And I think that if we have an amnesty where people are allowed to leave, it will accommodate the enforcement department in terms of trying to get some of these people out without them having fear of prosecution, and then we can put the cautions on those individuals. And under the immigration law, as an immigration officer, you have the right to refuse entry if you deem that person a non-desirable person of the Cayman Islands. And I would think that if you have a caution on record that says you overstayed, that would give you enough reason to say you're non-desirable. But that's just my personal opinion.
No,
but
I appreciate
I believe that there's a lot of work that need to be done in the immigration department, and I think that collectively with different agencies within the government, they could get to a point where we could properly vet people when it comes to permits and even visitors. And I think that we need to start looking at other nationalities and not just our neighbors. And I think that a lot of times we see abuse of the system coming from other nationalities that we once thought wasn't an issue. But again, going back to some of the points that the caller before last made in terms of tourism and all that other stuff, I just want to point out, because I know time is very limited. We've seen, and it's not like we made this up in Cayman here and want to stir up controversy. Okay, we've seen that we spent $1.3 million on a boardwalk, which we all know is ridiculous. We've seen that we embarked on redeveloping the airport, which now we've gone over budget, over $55 million. We don't know what the number is until January apparently, and now we're gonna go out. And I know that the minister made a statement saying that And I can't believe that he actually used the term fake news. I mean, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that any member of our parliament could stoop to the level of quoting Donald Trump in terms of fake news. It's ridiculous, and he should be ashamed of himself for saying it on a public platform. But the reality is that if we are going to embark on doing a cruise berthing facility in our country based on the last two indication from government with the boardwalk and the airport, and thinking that the people of this, and I'm not even talking about the environmental side of things and all of the issues that may cause. I want the government to go take a long look at the Dominican Republic, where all those hotels are closed down, and along those beaches where cruise tourism has destroyed the tourism product, where tourists just don't want to come simply because of that. The reality is that there are a lot of sit-in examples on what we could and what we can't do and what we should and what we shouldn't do. The reality is that we all know that this is all about dollars and cents and reviving certain people businesses in the Georgetown area and, corporate welfare. And we know that this is the reality. So we need to collectively come together. Civil servants and the public and the private sector need to come together. We need to get this referendum in place, and we need to stop allowing the government or individuals in the government to have these personal agendas to go out and burden the people and future generations with their dilapidated projects. I mean, we've seen the Clifton Hunter High School. We still deal with the Clifton Hunter High School. We still have an unfinished school off of Walker's Road. So it's not even like we corrected that and we got that fixed and we back on track. We still haven't even fixed that, and now we're going to embark on another capital project that may very well destroy this economy and its people. And I think that it's time now that the Caymanian people collectively come together and stand under one limb and support this referendum. And I believe that, anything is accomplishable when it comes to numbers. And I think that it's that point in Cayman's history where we got to draw that line in the sand. And we need to come together, all walks of life, all personalities, all colors, all creed. We have to put aside our emotional, personal differences with each other, and we need to work towards the common goal of creating a better Cayman for all. And that starts by not allowing the government to force a cruise berthing facility that will be the detriment of our tourism product. We cannot handle 7 ships that we have in town right now from an infrastructure standpoint. How in the world are we going to, because you're not going to eliminate tendering, Sterling. I can just tell you that right now. You're going to put 2 pairs out town that can accommodate maybe 4 ships at best. And what happens when you got 7 ships out in the harbor? You're going to have to still have ships on anchor or on engines. You're going to still have to tender. You're going to still clog up the areas in which we have concerns about now.
I hear you, but let me ask. A government is duly elected. That's going to premise that to date the elections have been free and fair. So no major allegations or any kind of say about this unfair election. So a government is duly elected, deciding, let's use the cruise project. Hey, we're going to move forward with this thing. This is what we feel is the thing to do, and we're going to go forward. Should it not be for the government then to go and get started? If the public is not in favor, well, what will the public do?
Well, that's why we have the power of referendum. That's why Mr. McField talked about earlier that we have the power of referendum within the Constitution. And I think that the people of this country need to learn to exercise their power, not only on election day, but whenever something like this comes up that the people are not in favor of, for many valid reasons, we need to exercise that right.
But respectfully, our
so
people,
whether let me just finish address your duly elected comment, because I want the people of this island to understand,
please,
that this unity government wasn't voted in by the people of this country. Remember that 6,000 people voted for independence. These guys decided to sell their souls and sell their birthright to join hands in order to maintain political sovereignty. because they want to save face. That's what happened in this country. They hijacked an election that the people voiced what they wanted. Okay, that's what took place. So they weren't duly elected as the government. They were duly elected amongst themselves to form a government that the people didn't want. That's the reality. So I am sitting here saying that I'm not, listen, I don't have anything personal against anybody in Parliament other than the fact that you are the gatekeepers of the sustainability of Caymanians. And whenever you run derelict on your duties, we are here to remind you and to strike accountability. And that's what we need to start doing in this country. We have to stop having conversations and we need to start having action. Listen to me good, and I want the people to understand this. Faith is no good without action.
Well, see, I know, faith without works is dead, the Bible says.
And that is the reality. So you can have all the faith in the world, but if you're not willing to go out and work towards the things that you have faith in, they'll never come to fruition.
All right, well, you answered the question I was going to ask, where, our people historically, no, I shouldn't say that.
Well,
in recent times have not been as willing to step up.
Well, you see, the problem is, and I've said this many times, what institution like the government and all of those people who support the government to maintain their status quo and protect their nest egg, what they never gave an account for, Sterling, was the evolvement of education, the advancement of technology, the access to knowledge and information like we have right now. You understand? They didn't expect people to hear this type of conversation and ask those questions. Everybody thought that we were still living in the 1500s, where you got to send a message by a horse and a carriage. But now we can get whatever we want to say across within moments. And that's the reality. The constant evolvement of education has created a technical issue for those people who have been the guardians of the status quo. So now that people are aware of what is happening in our society and why it's happening and who it is that making it happen, and we starting to ask the questions, and now we starting to say, well, yeah, in the 1970s and 80s, we didn't know this, but we know this now. And now we got more educated, smart Caymanians who've gone abroad, seen other environments, and become more versatile in terms of how different things work. And they come back and say, well, I don't understand why in 1979, when we had 25 recommendations from the UN saying that we should do X, Y, Z, and not one was implemented. And that is facts. So, again, I think we're going over a bit. I just want to say that Sterling, I am super happy that I'm allowed to have this platform in order to share views and talk about stuff. The reality is that for all those people who are in fear of victimization, you send me an email and I'll broadcast it on the air, and I'll make sure that issue becomes on the forefront of the public ear, and that we can have that dialogue and try to work for the solutions. And the government have all the solutions. They're just there at implementing them. It's like knowledge. It's useless unless you apply it. Same thing with solutions. Anyway, thank you again, and I know we're going to wrap up now.
Mario, thanks, man. Thanks very much. And you know what? Hopefully it'll inspire others to likewise not just have courage, but to think and to be willing to be responsible and accountable for their actions. Thanks very much. Hey, to our listeners, tomorrow's another day. Please come back for Talk Today after the midday news and midday meditation. But we invite you to share with the Business Buzz in the morning. Until then, be blessed.